The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So welcome everyone to the CDO IQ Symposium. This is the wrong date. I'm just going to get rid of that, where we're actually going to be talking about implementing the data strategy. So this is a working session that has input from our esteemed panelists that you see here. Mike will go and introduce these panelists, but we've also got input from our other data leaders who have joined the call. So Mike, I will ask you to go ahead and do an introduction to the team. I'll leave this slide up in the background so that way if people want to show any additional slides, they can just ask me and I'll transfer control to them. So Mike, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Robert, and welcome to everybody. This roundtable follows on the very successful roundtable we had just before Christmas about writing the data strategy. Now, of course, writing the data strategy is in relative terms the easy bit. It's actually how you implement it and how you deal with the effects of your implementation and how that veers and hauls once the rubber hits the road, so to speak. We're very fortunate in having three great data leaders who are going to lead the discussions that we're going to have today. And that the aim is for this to be an interactive period. And so if it's just the three panelists who you see up on the screen and myself talking, then we've probably got the message wrong, and we need to sort of get you more involved. So don't be shy in coming in. And what we're going to do is I'm going to say what three fabulous panelists we've got and give them each a couple of minutes to say hello to you, and then we'll go into a quick question that I'll throw out there, and we'll expect the panelists to lead on, and then let's see if we can generate a discussion here that educates us all, takes us all to a better place and an understanding of some of the pitfalls that we have in implementing a strategy, and so that we can all learn from the experience of not just of these three great data leaders that we have, but from the experiences that everybody else that's on the call has. And so, as I said, we have Maria, Ivan, and Krishna with us. And if I could ask the three of you just to give a couple of minutes in that order, just so that people have got a little bit more understanding of who you are, where you're coming from, so that if they want to sort of engage with you, that they have a better understanding of the questions that they want to ask. Maria.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And yes, yeah, as my bio up here says, I am currently with SAP. I've been with them for about 12 years now. But really, my background has been as a practicing chief data officer. I've done that 3 times, including for SAP. And I would say this topic of data strategy has become more important to me as I've had to do each one of these roles and be that first chief data officer. And I've come to really appreciate and understand that you need to have a data strategy, and it has to be all inclusive. So that's the point of view that I'll bring. I also have a masterclass that's available on YouTube, which has even a lot more detail for those of you in the audience.
And Maria.
Hello, everyone. Sorry.
Hi, Ivan. Sorry, I just want to just check, Maria. Did your microphone just all of a sudden it just faded out there? Was that all you wanted to say in the introduction?
Yeah, I wanted to keep it brief.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. Sorry, Ivan. Over to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Herrero. I'm actually from Spain, but I've been living here in Latin America for the last 9 years. First in Colombia, then in Peru, where I joined Intercorp, which is one of the leading conglomerates here in Peru. We operate more than 15 companies in different sectors, such as healthcare, entertainment, retail, banking, finance, insurance, and education. When I joined the group, I'm the first generation CDO of the group. So when I joined the group, there weren't a practice of data at the holding. We had some initiatives sparking in different companies. The bank was at the more mature level of using data analytics, but the rest of the companies were in a very initial state. And we've gone through a very interesting path during these last 3 years. The first year, building up the central team of, now we are 60 people, but during the first year we were 17 people. So just to keep it brief, what I would like to mention is during the first year, we established the capabilities we needed, and we made some important learnings on how to navigate the culture of the group from the corporate level. On 2020, we focused on generating traction in the companies of the group, so we could move onto a more strategic conversation during last year and start designing the strategy for 7 companies of the group, 7 out of 15, and starting working on different projects. We've been working on several projects for the last 3 years, but on a very opportunistic way. And now, after we've co-designed the data strategy of the companies, now we are entering a more strategic focus on what we do and how we do it. So I think I could share some learnings of this track for the last 3 years.
Thank you, Ivan.
Ivan, super, thank you.
Go ahead, Krishna.
Sure. Hey, everyone. So I go by KP. I've been in GE Healthcare for 10 plus years now, almost 11. Prior to that, I spent some time in consulting at Hewlett Packard. So my tenure at GE Healthcare been mostly in the technology space. In the last 4 or 5 years, I've been in the data area. And my interests include looking and building and driving the enterprise data strategy for GE Healthcare, which includes our data management, data governance, as well as data products. And then I also wear the hat of a product manager, building out some of our key data products, such as what we are embarking this year is the data fabric. Some great experiences and lessons over there. Also, something I did last couple of years was build out data as a service to enable our businesses consume data seamlessly across our enterprise, and ultimately drive a data-driven culture through a combination of literacy, access to data, self-service, and cataloging. So those are some of the key focus areas that I'm involved in. Again, this covers all business units and areas across the healthcare, as well as the different functions. Happy to share my experiences and have a conversation with the panel today.
Brilliant. Thank you to the 3 of you for that, which is very interesting. And I if I can, my first sort of question, my kickoff is: did the 3 of you, a simple one, did the 3 of you write the strategies that you had to implement, or did you inherit them? And is there, and having looked at your experiences, do you think that there is an inherent difficulty in inheriting and then having to implement a strategy that someone else has written? Maria?
I can start off. Yeah. So I was the first chief. Usually in jobs that I've had, I've been that first chief data officer, and so usually there wasn't a strategy to be had. But I would say, especially in my last experience, that what we did have was an ROI. Right? So in order to justify my role, there was a business case that was developed. It was specifically around customer data, what would happen if we improved our customer data. So I did have to step into that and have this ROI, which by the way, I quickly, about a year into it, I said, there's no way that I can verify this ROI, because it was based on again, upselling and cross-selling, because we had great customer data. And I learned about metrics is, at least if you want the metrics to be accepted by the receiving end, so sales would have had to say, yep, I can actually increase my sales because my customer data is better. And they really hadn't really done that. So it was very difficult for me to come in and prove, because you had great customer data, I was going to upsell and cross-sell our customers. And that was really difficult. Having that set as an expectation was pretty difficult to unravel. Luckily, we did have a metrics framework, and were able to say, well, I can't verify this benefit, but I sure as heck can verify these other benefits, which we could quantify. So it was a part of the data strategy, Michael, that certainly was in place, but the rest of it was not. The other question that's sort of relevant here is whether or not did I do the data strategy on my own, or did I have help from a consultant? And you know, my perspective on this, we did not hire a consultant. I felt that we didn't need to hire a consultant. I was sort of brought in as a subject matter expert. So given I was brought in as a subject matter expert, I didn't really need another subject matter expert to help identify, you know, capabilities and gaps. So I think those are the two experiences that I had with this.
Yeah, I can go next, KP here. So a little similar to Marriott at my end, I inherited part of the strategy, and then I've had to build on that and add subsequently to it. So I think what I've seen is it depends on what the strategy is in terms of how you can execute on it. So when I started, one of the key aspects of our strategy at GE Healthcare was migration to the cloud. And while the strategy was clear and the expectation was clear, similar to Maria, the KPIs were a little confusing and difficult to prove. And I think that is where most of the organizations are also caught up in. So rather than talk about, so in our case, since it was cloud migration, it was a little easy to talk about cost savings. So I had to tweak some of those outcomes. And then the second part is actual execution of the strategy itself. So we decided early on to move to one of the big three cloud vendors. And what I realized is when I got in, is the vendor was not engaged in defining the strategy. It was mostly driven by our own teams. And one of the key things I did is engage the vendor more upfront, have them their skin in the game, so they are part of success or failure. Thankfully, it went very well, and we have our platform on the cloud today. But I think that was one lesson learned. And then subsequently, as I look at something we are doing last year and this year, those I've been in position lucky enough to drive that strategy, get the funding, get the measurement framework, and then deliver on it. It doesn't mean it's easy. I think even then you have to be careful about what you commit and how you are engaging your stakeholders and how you are communicating with them throughout the journey. Because the business situation changes. Something which made sense extensively, say 6 months ago, today might not. So that is where the reinforcement of what you're doing, why you're doing, is very. I hope that helped.
KP, I think we lost you then.
Oh, I'm still sorry. I'm not sure at which point I cut off. So I was just alluding to the fact that yes, I've done both, and then what is the key end of the day is technology wise, we can solve it, right? I think you may be delayed, but we'll always figure out ways to solve the problem. It's how much and how do you engage your business partners, and how do you keep them up to speed and show them the value. That's going to be the key. And the way we have done that is through incremental updates rather than big bang, and then tying the outcome. So for example, if I think about Data Fabric, taking those tangible activities of Data Fabric, so in this case, connecting customer touchpoints for us with actual business outcomes, such as driving sales growth. Now, to what Maria said earlier, it's hard to quantify exactly what is the sales growth driven. So then the question we ask is, if you did not have this data, what would you have done? And then we try and get to what's the benefit. So yeah, that's it for this question from me.
Brilliant. Yeah. Ivan, have you got anything?
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I'm the first generation chief data officer of the Technicorp. So here we didn't have a data strategy at all, and we've designed our own framework for coming up with the data strategy for the different companies of the group. And what I think is important here is to define what we understand for data strategy, and for us, when I try to explain to our senior leaders what a data strategy is and why they need to have one in their companies, it's what I use is the data strategy is something that can help you answer 4 questions at the company level. The first one is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do and what are you going to achieve through the strategic use of data and analytics? And the main deliverables of that question is a roadmap of initiatives, and every initiative has to be coupled with a business outcome. And what we need in terms of talent, people, what are the capabilities we need to build at the company level, and how we can help build those capabilities to ensure we can actually execute the roadmap of initiatives, and what we are going to need in terms of technical capabilities, the data architecture, the technological architecture. So that's all of that just answers the first question. But the second question is why, which I think probably is at least as important and even more important than answering the first question, which is, where are we going to do those initiatives in the order we are putting them in the backlog and not any other thing. And we have to understand that a strategy is about what we're going to do, but also what we are not going to do, or at least what we are not going to do now. And to answer this question, we always start with the business strategy as the main input of the data strategy. And I always like to say that there's no way a company can have 2 different strategies. So a data strategy, the only sense and the main goal of the data strategy should be to accelerate the achievement of the business strategic goals. So that's what I always say to our business leaders. This is not something we like to do because this is fancy and because, I don't know, I'm the chief data officer, so I have to do data stuff in the companies. This is all about bringing value for the business, and the data strategy has to emerge from the business. And the way we've designed the framework to coming up with the data strategy ensures this, because we always start by interviewing and making workshops with the business, starting with the C-suite, and then going down the organization, even to the more operational level, to understand what are the pain points of the operation, and try to consolidate those pain points into business opportunities, and then from those business opportunities try to prioritize them and make some ideation sessions to understand how we could approach, how we could capture the value of those opportunities by the strategic use of data and analytics. So those are the first questions, and we have two other questions left. The third one being, who is gonna lead this transformation program? And this is very important because we have to have in mind that what we are facing here is a transformation program at the company level. So we are gonna have the right sponsorship at the very top level of the company, starting from the CEO. Then we should have one key sponsor, someone who is accountable of delivering the value and everything that we've stated that we're gonna do, and the capabilities we need to ensure we develop the initiatives that have been prioritized as part of the roadmap, and 2 or 3 other sponsors that should be very engaged on making this happen. One of them probably being the head of HR, and probably the head of finance, and someone from the operation, probably from marketing or commercial or operations, depending who is more engaged with, more passionate about the use of data. And the fourth question is how are we gonna ensure that everything we do, everything we've set up to achieve is done in a efficient manner, and we go towards the goals we've set up, making the best possible use of our limited resources. So that's the way we've approaching it, and I think this approach sets the whole company in the mood of what they're gonna do, what they're gonna achieve, and how they're gonna do it. So it's something a bit intensive in terms of time and resources, but it generates very good alignment at the company level, starting from the C-suite and to the operations, to the most operational level, to go through this transformation process in a sustainable way.
Hey, Michael, I'd like to kind of add to what Ivan is saying, and because I think the how in particular is an important strategic decision that you have to make early on, right? Part of the how is how do you organize around the data strategy so that you're effective. But I mean, one of the things that I evolved my thinking in as I did my third stint as the chief data officer was the how to be more integrated into the initiatives of the company. So I think there's really kind of 2 ways that you can implement a data strategy. One is, as a chief data officer, you have budget, you have people, and you go off and you do initiatives, whether that's governance or master data or any and all the capabilities that are in your strategy, and it's a separate thread. Another that I found really effective, especially kind of in the last 5 years that I was the chief data officer for SAP was where there is important initiatives that are already going on that are data rich, call them data rich, and whether that's M&A, whether that's a digital transformation, whether that's even GDPR, frankly, or privacy, those are data rich initiatives that managing data effectively and re-engineering the way that you do data management is a great opportunity project for the chief data officer to intercept and be a very strategic part of that. Not just as the data team that's moving data back and forth, but having an actual work stream where it's a data strategy, data management work stream, where we legitimize that work stream as all the capabilities you need for success. And I really became a big convert of that methodology, because I found that when you were part of a bigger initiative, you had momentum, you had focus, you possibly had more resources, you had the attention of the executives, you could drive business value because there was business value in those initiatives. Fine, and so you were a part of that. So I like that approach a lot. And then the other is what I'm seeing more and more, and Krishna had started to talk about that, KP has started to talk about that, was that there's this implementation approach called kind of a data as a product, and data mesh, or data, to me, data mesh is the organizational structure, and the data fabric is some of the underpinnings, but terminology aside itself, that there is this new operational model that we seem to be moving toward in those, that is also an interesting decision to make. Do you want to set up the organization to deliver as a product, or in a more traditional way? So those are some of the kind of considerations too on decisions to be more successful. I like embedding into strategic projects, but I'm getting more and more interested in this, mesh idea and data as a product, and whether that's, brings some extra value. And by the way, I hear a lot of background noise or someone else, but so KP, maybe you might want to add a little bit more about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was getting to jump in there. No, you're right about both Evan and Mary. I think valid points, and at least what I've seen being successful is both having to go top down with the entire leadership support connected to a vision. Could be a vision around growth, could be a vision around compliance, and then bottom up, right? You also have to ensure there's sufficient interest, enthusiasm from the folks on the ground who are facing those challenges day to day. And Data Fabric for me has been that great example where the leadership vision was, hey, I want to better understand the customer journey so we can drive better experience of us for our customers, and in turn drive growth. Now at the working layer, right, where you have the technologists, you have the sales teams, you have the marketing folks, their challenge is, yes, I can do that, but I need data, right? How do I see connected data? So this is where I think the confluence of both top down, bottom up makes a lot of sense. And the practical experience with something like Fabric has been that it won't be successful unless you have that SMEs, those who understand the business, who are part of your team. And so you need that. You obviously need the technical folks, the IT folks, because you need the connections, you need the technology know-how, the mappings. So those are all the practical aspects of making the sausage, which you need. But you also need the SME knowledge, so they can know what you map, what you connect, how do you create the cross references. So yeah, that's been our journey with Fabric, which has just started, but we have had some initial lessons over there, which is A, make sure it's a cross-functional team. B, have incremental outcomes identified so that you're not solving world hunger, you're not boiling the ocean, but you're making incremental progress. And then see, like I mentioned even earlier on, communicate, right? I think it's very easy for someone to say, oh, I would have done it anyway. So it is very important to connect what is being done here, for example, in our case, the data services in Fabric, to the ultimate outcome, while the percentage attribution for this may be only 50%, but that is fine. You're still telling how you are helping with the larger story. So I think those are something which we have learned, some in a straightforward way, some a little harder way, but it's always a journey. And yeah, I echo what Ivan and Maria mentioned earlier.
Brilliant. That was my next question, was about how do you set the priorities and how do you match your data priorities to the business strategy? And I think we've actually begun to discuss that, which is super. My question that sort of ties in with that, before I sort of go to attendees to see what they might think, is you're setting your priorities to match the business strategy, but there's always a demand from some people at the C-level for you to go for the low-hanging fruit. In your implementation, how have you found that balance between just doing something quick to make your fellow C-suite members smile and actually concentrating on delivering value for the business in the long term?
Well,
Yeah.
I can start with that if you like. In the journey we've been through in these last years, we had to start with some low-hanging fruit projects, because before, in my experience, before having, at least at the corporate level, before we had a chance to talk about coming up with a data strategy and put data at the strategic conversation with the companies, we had to win. We had to earn the the possibility, the chance to do so, and the only way to have the chance to talk about data at the strategic level is by developing some initial projects, going through some low-hanging fruit projects and prove some value. And it may not be something that really, I don't know, makes a deep change in the organization, because you're not gonna make that kind of change with just 1, 2, or 3 opportunistic projects. But I think they're very needed to move the organization towards an environment that is open for you to engage in a more strategic level, and to have the whole organization going through this process. This takes from 3 to 6 months to really come out with a data strategy. So I think it's something we need to do before moving on to, or before having the chance to going through a more strategic process. At least is the experience we've had here at Intercorp.
Thanks, Ivan. KP or Maria, have you got anything to say?
Can you hear me? By the way, I switched microphones just to make sure. Any better?
Oh yeah, strength 5, as we would say in my former employment.
Good. I would just say that, yeah, you have to do some things tactical. You have to be credible. You have to gain credibility with the organization. And sometimes if the fire is burning in one area, and you've got to go deal with that. In my case, when I first joined, within 6 months we started into a big M&A acquisition spree at SAP, and it really wasn't something that I had really thought through in my strategy, but we quickly had to kind of pivot, and not everything we did was as strategic as we wanted it to be, but we had to do what we needed to do to establish that capability and to be able to start to implement some of the capabilities, especially around data quality and data merging.
Yeah, I would add to what Maria said, right? One thing I've seen work is pick up one of those two low-hanging fruits, which are relatively quick wins. But at the same time, in terms of messaging, kind of connect that to what is your largest strategy. So if you take data quality as an example, what I've done is shown the baseline and shown the improvement opportunity. Maybe the fix takes 6 months, but you can say, if I improve it, this is what you'll get, and this is the benefit you'll get. So I think that I've seen work very effectively in our organization with our business stakeholders.
You know, I've heard it, going back to this comment about making your stakeholders happy. You know, I like to say that in the world of data, you need a lot of friends. And
Yeah.
you don't just need an executive stakeholder or a sponsor. I mean, you do absolutely need that. But my experience is that executive sponsors come and go. If they're very good, they go do some other job, or sometimes they leave the company. And if you've only latched on to that executive sponsor and you haven't made a lot of other friends of data, I call them FODs, then your program and yourself is at risk. And friends can be peers, friends can be up the chain, around, down in the organization, influencers, but and sometimes you do that with some tactical projects, but that's what the strategy is so important, because the strategy is that point of view, that North Star that guides you, that even if you do something tactical, you may do it in a different way because you know what the end state is, than just doing something tactical just to be tactical.
Yeah, and just if I may add, right, what I've also seen help us is use an established branding. So in our case, for example, the fabric is really picked up very well. And now attach other areas where we have larger challenges, say maybe governance or quality, and say, now to be successful fabric, I need you to help with me on the quality. And that works as well.
I'd love to hear from Derek. I see he's on the call, or Ryan. I don't know if Ryan got a chance to, because his experiences in a high-tech company would be super interesting too.
Hey, here's Derek. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and
Yep.
clear.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the invitation to jump in. Yeah, I like definitely the approach of ensuring that you're anchoring your work in multiple areas of the organization, so that you're building basically an insurance for the company, for the program, that it's going to have greater longevity than if you just focus in one area. What I found very often, if you keep your mind open and you're flexible in your approach, just doing a really quick high-level analysis of the fundamental data that is common between multiple different stakeholders who have different projects and different interests running, across the organization, you very often find that there's common data. Just to give a quick example, one of the things that I've found in one of the previous lives that I had was we had a situation where the chief risk officer was saying, hey, we really have some major issues with the data that underpins our anti-money laundering. Some of the data there, some of the customer data just really isn't in good order, and we need to do something about it. And he'd been saying, I've been shouting about this in the organization for, years now. No one's giving me any love. You know, no one's throwing the resources at it. And hey, Derek, you know, you're my opportunity to get this done. So I was like, okay, cool. But at the same time, our strategy was all about, you know, focusing on customer data and householding. But one of the key first steps for the chief marketing officer, who was the main stakeholder of that, was to, again, focus on specific aspects about the customer. And what I did was I looked really quickly at the anti-money laundering attributes that were of interest, and the chief marketing officer's main interests in terms of customer data. And guess what? They overlapped, you know, at least 80%. So that was a natural opportunity to please two C-level folks, two very powerful C-level folks in the organization, and really, you know, kill two birds with one stone, if you like. So we were able to chunk up the work and bring the chief risk officer into the series of stakeholders around our more strategic focus, and satisfy some of his needs. So yeah, the more the merrier. The more people you can satisfy with what you're focused on in your strategy, the better it is. You know, it's like putting up a tent and putting up the tent poles, and then making sure that you've got enough you know, anchors around the tent to hold it in place when the winds start blowing. The more anchors, the better. You know, the other secret I found is to really focus on extreme scoping. So, and I think people have already alluded to that in the previous conversation that we've had on this call, but really keeping things small, not having these long, drawn out, you know, project deliverables, but really focusing on rapid delivery, short-term delivery of value back to the business, and rather have more of an agile approach, you know, with a lot of engagement from all the folks in the business units as well. So that's just, you know, a couple of key things just to throw into the mix of the conversation here.
As ever, Derek, insightful. Thank you. Mahmoud, where are you in your implementation process, and is this giving you the sort of guidance that you need?
Thank you for the invitation. I work for higher education, and we are in a very early stage of our data strategy. So this is actually a learning opportunity for me, and thanks, Maria, for making your course available online. It was a great learning opportunity for me. So at this point, we are just like basically developing our strategy and running small proof of concepts about some initial ideas. We have one initiative that's in the middle of procurement, I would say, for master data management. And interestingly, it came as a part of a bigger initiative, as Maria alluded to, that sometimes there are opportunities for data strategy initiatives to come as part of bigger initiatives. So this master data management actually was discovered or was highlighted as part of a CRM project, but we took it to a broader scope to not only provide the 360 degree views for the constituents, but also to provide some enhancement of data quality and consistency for other data domains. But I would say we are still early in our journey with data strategy, and higher education, of course, has its own constraints and limitations. Thank you.
Excellent. That's why we're doing this is to help. Todd, are you getting some good stuff out of this? And where are you in your implementation?
Yeah, Mike,
Hello?
Todd's microphone is still red, so might not be able.
Della, how about Della?
So
We know
in terms of implementation, to me, I really just see it as more of a journey versus an implementation. It's really been about defining what is those key objectives that we're trying to achieve. And the key part, as Maria had said, is finding those people that are your friends and bringing them along the journey. So we're really not looking at it as a project versus more of a journey.
This is Todd. I apologize. I had a double mute button issue, but I agree with Della. We're just getting to the point now where we're completing the first pass of our initial data strategy. So we're at a very 1.0. But what I've suggested in the data strategy as an implementation methodology is to follow two different paths. Just as Maria had mentioned, where you do have a series of initiatives to put in some of the foundational elements. I have 3 phases specified in our strategy, where the first phase is where we try to improve what is already existing. Second phase is pivoting to a next generation. But we have a series of initiatives that we'll put in place to execute on some of the things that we need to improve that are foundational, but we're also connecting to initiatives that are currently on the board. So that way we take advantage of some of the resources that are already being put into place. But we are looking at it as a journey, as opposed to just an implementation, because this is going to be long term. We're trying to grow as an organization, trying to grow as a bank. And the only way that we can do that really is to start leveraging data much better than we have in the past. So we realized that a lot of the things that need to be put in place are fundamental and foundational. And it's going to take a little bit of time, so it's more of a journey than it is, an implementation.
Brilliant. Indeed, as part of the journey, though, I'm sure that all of the businesses that we've been part of would be interested in, measuring the success of the strategy and looking forward to the next steps, the next strategy, the next stage in the journey. If Maria, Ivan, and KP could sort of have a think about how do you measure your success? What are the KPIs that you've used to demonstrate to the business that the strategy is working and it is delivering beyond, Project X is delivering a return of Y dollars?
Yeah, let me start with that one, because this is one that I'm really passionate about. It's a key area of success for me. So I had I get the luck. But at SAP I was their chief data officer, their first chief data officer for 7 years. And if we all look at the tenure of chief data officers, it's kind of usually 4 years or less. So being 7 years in that same role, I got to experience the evolution of being a chief data officer. And had I not had a metrics, a way to tell my story of value, I don't think I would have survived those 7 years, because there was a lot of changes that were made in the organization. So I'm a big believer in having a set of metrics to tell your story, But it's not just the KPI. So I think it's important to have a set of KPIs, whatever that's in your strategy. Are you going to be faster, cheaper, better? Are you going to be, you know, improving ROI or customer sat, whatever those business value metrics? I steered away from metrics that were very data specific. Even data quality ones, after a while, after about 3 years, the business team was saying to me, look, we don't really care, you know, quote unquote, about these data quality numbers. What we care about is what we can do differently because of all the work that you're doing. And so getting that, you know, as Ivan said, getting that business value, business process focus into my metrics was how I had to evolve. But I also had to learn to tell a story. So it's not the same thing to say this year, you know, these are my KPIs in terms of return on investment, to be able to say over the last 7 years, our ROI has improved by 50%. Our, you know, data quality has improved by Y%. Our data quality is, you know, second to none to our industry, right? So being able to understand from the beginning the story that you want to tell about your mission, and then picking those metrics that tell the story, baselining those metrics early on, and then be able to tell the story over a period of time and not just a static KPI. That's kind of what I learned around this whole metrics framework.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it depends on the state of where you are in terms of your data strategy or implementation. Our KPIs have evolved dramatically from the first year to where we are now. And just to give you a brief example, the first year our main KPIs were just the number of people we have in the team and how we were engaging with companies, but it's we are and some strategic capabilities we were building up, for example, to being able to consolidate a single customer view across company in the group. So yeah, there were more tactical KPIs during the first year. In the second year, we were measuring how we were engaging with companies at a more with more scale. So I don't know, we delivered more than 50 projects in different companies. So the focus was trying to make a movement and around data and the whole group. And then when we achieved that, then we had this conversation about what we wanted to achieve in the long term. So last year we came up with a bold goal of bringing $100 million in EBITDA before 2024. And we didn't put a lot of effort in why $100 million, or if it's going to be 90 or 150. It was just a means to as Maria said, that everyone understood that we were not a technical team or just a technical team, that we are here to bring value for the business, and that's a very powerful statement. We are bringing $100 million in EBITDA, and that makes a change in the financial results of the group, and it brings also a very powerful statement for the team that we have to bring value, and we have to measure the value that we're bringing for the different businesses. And that's something that we cannot make on our own. That's another clear statement of that goal, that it's something that we cannot make on our own. We have to scale capabilities around across the group because it's not something we can achieve with just a corporate team, and we have to work very closely with the different companies, because we cannot make we cannot make value just from the corporate, from the holding. We need companies adopting the strategic use of data and analytics in their processes, because they are the ones that can bring more incomes. So just having that goal, just a number that everyone can agree and understand, I think is very powerful and has a lot of implications at every level for the companies, for the data analytics team, for the story that we can tell in the few spaces that we have with the different top decision makers of the companies. So I think that's working very fine for us.
Excellent. Thank you, Ivan. KP, can I just interrupt there?
Sure.
I think we're heading now into our last couple of minutes. Peter, I know that you're out there. I know that you've sat on both sides of the fence in terms of implementing, advising people to implement, well, all three sides of the fence really, and then sort of writing about it. Have you got anything to add in terms of summary of what we've talked about today?
I think everybody's done a great job of articulating, and the real key is that this is context dependent. Some organizations with an awful lot of data debt should have a data strategy that focuses on improving things for everybody around the data debt aspects of it. Other companies are in much better shape and can go straight on to follow some of the particular strategic pieces. But it's overall been a great hour. Thanks so much, Michael.
Super. Okay, Krishna, we've heard the words from Peter, and have you anything to sort of?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize in a minute or so. I think I echo both of them first, right? Totally agree. The way I've seen again work for us is the initiatives can have some tactical KPIs defined. For example, growth in margins because you now have better insight, or growth in customer engagement because you have better customer quality data for our customers. But then connect them into the larger story of company growth or compliance or other strategic intention of the company. And then connect that strategic story all the time to how you tactically achieve those different initiatives. That's the way I've seen really resonate with senior leadership and help us as a data team to evolve. And the other piece, and then I'll end at this, is also to focus on the whole concept around data literacy, right? By what I mean by that is driving your organization to understand and appreciate how data can make a difference. And more than data, how insights can make a difference in the way they go. As an example, moving away from dashboarding to insights, because you are now reducing time folks spend on looking at numbers to really acting on insights which they can make a tangible difference. And I think as long as we can go down that path and tell that story, leadership, you'll have leadership years.
Brilliant. I'd first of all just like to thank all of you for taking part as we've hit the hour in what for me personally has been a hugely interesting hour's worth of discussion. It's cleared up a lot of thoughts in my mind, and I hope it has added some knowledge to everybody that's been on the call. Even the three that we asked to come in and sort of give the experience of that they have had in implementing data strategies. These chats are part of the benefits of of being part of the society. And although we have a wider email audience, this was kept to just the invitation to this was kept to just the members of the paid up members of the society. And that's how we'll do this moving forward with our roundtable series. And if I may make so bold, KP, you introduced a very interesting topic just at the end there about data literacy, which is a huge, wide-ranging topic about how you engage with your stakeholders and how you get the rest of the business that you're a part of to understand how data is used, the benefits of data, and as you say, moving from the old system of just telling you what you did several months ago to actually looking ahead and being able to sort of use the data to shape the future of your organization. And I think we'll be, if you're interested, we'll be contacting you about a roundtable on that topic in the future. But to everybody else, thank you very much indeed. I hope you've gained something. Do stay in touch. Do read your emails. And Robert, have we got anything there just to finish off? Robert's gone to sleep.
Sorry, Mike. Had a call come in there at the wrong time. Sir, can you you just want to look at data literacy as the next roadmap for the session?
Roundtable. I'm thinking that's Krishna KP introduced it. I think it's a very great topic. I know that there are people with very strong ideas about data literacy, and not least of which is whom are Peter and myself.
It's a big topic. Absolutely.
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic. Yeah, I think that would be great. I do want to apologize for Ryan. Ryan tried a couple of times to get on. For some reason, he couldn't get his pin get accepted in, so we couldn't merge him in there, because he did say he had a couple of points to contribute. But I think this has been very helpful. We will record this and post this up onto the Very Connect inside for all our CDOs and data leaders to get access to. And Mike, I agree with you. Yes, our next session should be, a next workshop should be on data literacy, and put a poll out there to see who would like to lead that discussion and have a more informal setting like we have today.
Brilliant. Thank you all. And I wish you a pleasant and successful rest of your day. And I'm off skiing.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Krishna.
Bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.